Good morning, YouTube. I am the City Prepper. America is headed towards a civil war, and preppers will die. It's simply put, it's the law of averages. It's the fact that people have confidence in their equipment and are not trained in it, or a situation they've never trained for or been thought about. This is why preppers are going to die. A lot of preppers, such as myself, especially the beginning ones, believed in their preps. They never trained in their preps. They never trained in the scenario. They don't practice any part of prepping other than having the items for survival. You're seeing our country go into absolute chaos. You're seeing our country fall into lawlessness, whether it's local law, vehicle traffic law, or the outright regard for other human life. And it's causing a situation that is absolutely brewing a perfect storm. We are headed into uncharted waters with the possible invocation of the Insurrection Act, implementation of martial law, and civil war. More now than we have since the first American Civil War. And I think that a lot of preppers will die. A lot of preppers on this channel or across the prepping community simply label themselves a prepper and don't practice the way of life. They don't enter a location looking for the egresses or exits. They don't enter the location and look to provide cover and concealment if the situation dictated it. They believe that the preps that they have are simply good enough. And for the most part, it is for the average individual, will give you that psychological edge and give you that leg up. But when it comes down to the long run, you will die. You need to start training with your preps. If you have your bullets, beans, and band-aids, you need to train in those. Highly suggest that if you have something that's towards the end of its shelf life, whether it's quick clot, whether it is your long-term food storage, training how to use them and how they taste and how they work, so on and so forth, is probably your best option. If you can afford to buy the testing implementation of that product, do so. For example, tourniquets. Tourniquets, you can make them, you can buy them, you can buy the training ones. I repeat, do not purchase a training tourniquet at a reduced fee thinking that that will be good enough for you when the emergency happens. Those are meant to train. Those are not as good as the actual item. Do not get yourself in a situation where you're cheaping out on certain preps. Firearms, medical equipment, and boots are things that I do not personally cheap out on. But that doesn't mean that you can prep on a budget in other locations. For example, long-term food storage, a lot of preppers that I know implement or have in their repertoire the powdered mashed potatoes. They're inexpensive, they're cost effective, and they take up little to no space. But back to the message. You need to start practicing your preps. You need to get some range time. You need to practice self-defense. You need to practice using whatever gadget you have. You need to have your family, loved ones, or group involved in that as well. The hour is at hand. And I've said this now since I've been back steadily on the channel for the last week and a half, 2 weeks. You need to prepare. You need to put yourself in mindset. You need to put yourself in scenario-based interactions. You need to have your loved ones in those scenario bases, your group in those scenario bases. We're coming into uncharted territory with the things that are starting to happen in this country. And it's getting concerning, scary, and sometimes it's what you're training for. I cannot get on the mountaintop and yell loud enough. You need to start preparing for the worst. Patreon, either later on today or tomorrow, I will go more in depth on ways to have scenario bases, ways to have tech med training, stuff like that. If you haven't done so already, I highly suggest you get on Patreon. Link will be below. www.patreon.com/cityprepper718. The hour is at hand. You have no King's Day, which I talked about yesterday, is a distraction. There are other distraction points that are coming out that are taking your eyes away from what is going to happen. Gold and silver being up is a clear indication that something is wrong. Either it's a pump and dump or there is something on the horizon that we haven't even fathomed. Prepare, guys. There's not much time. Tactical gear and training. www.darkknightmedics.com. Link will be in the description box below. Have a great day and stay tuned for further.